Are you tired of people making awful FNAF theories and justifying the theory by saying it's based on Remnant? Are you tired of people saying Agony is the reason why you can't count their theory is incorrect? Well, oh boy, do I have the answer for you. Introducing today's video, where we finally put all of this to rest. Oh, hey there! Welcome to my Lab of Wonders. Today in the lab, we are tackling the confusing mess that is soul science within the Five Nights at Freddy's universe. While FNAF does have a large amount of complex and confusing aspects to it, none seem to beat it more than how souls work in this franchise. And with 23 story-driven books and 10 main games, you would think Scott Cawthon has had plenty of opportunities to explain to the fans how souls work. Right? Scott, you are writing these with a purpose, correct? Yeah, I didn't think so. But all jokes aside, theorizing within FNAF gets a little tricky when one of the pillars of this franchise is still an unknown variable. With today's video, I hope to change that, because I believe there are clues that Scott has left behind to help us solve the puzzle. So get ready, cause I'm sadly reading more FNAF books. But before you start hitting yourself with a copy of the Silver Eyes, let's understand what differentiates complex topics like Remnant and Agony from just a plain old soul. Well, a soul is the spirit of a person who has physically died, and within FNAF, after death, souls can move on, presumably to an afterlife, or they can attach themselves or a portion of themselves to something. An example of this attachment would be Charlie's spirit possessing the puppet or William's spirit remaining in the Spring Bonnie suit. These spirits can remember aspects of their lives and have a sense of who they are. For example, in Pizzeria Simulator, when Afton approaches your event from the side, he will start to speak to the player.
Fascinating what they have become.
William Afton's spirit is in that suit, and he remembers that he made the fun times, which is why he's fascinated by what they have become. Heck, you can still even hear a bit of his ego in his lines.
What a deceptive calling. I knew it was a lie the moment I heard it, obviously, but it is intriguing nonetheless.
And if you ever want to force a soul to move on, you can just burn whatever they are attached to try and force them along. So within FNAF, spirits are pretty straightforward and easy to understand. However, things get a little more tricky when you have a spirit that doesn't want to move on. The best example of a spirit not wanting to move on would be Cassidy. And in case you don't know, Cassidy is a child who is murdered by Afton and possesses the Golden Freddy suit. Within Ultimate Custom Night, she is called the one you should not have killed, and it's made very clear that Afton did something specific to her that has made her extremely vengeful. This vengeance has survived the test of time, because in FNAF 3 and Pizzeria Simulator, when Henry and Michael try to burn down the last remnant of Fazbear Entertainment, Cassidy refuses to give up her quest to make Afton suffer. That rage and anger lead Cassidy to trap William Afton's soul in an endless purgatory, which we play through in Ultimate Custom Night. Now, this game has a lot of animatronics that are trying to kill you, and some of them have really cool voice lines like,
"You will not be spared. You will not be saved."
Or you can press the subscribe button, that works too. But within these death lines, the ones spoken by the mediocre melodies seem to be Cassidy speaking directly to William Afton, and some of these are really interesting. Listen here to Ned Bears.
"This is how it feels, and you get to experience it over and over and over again, forever. I will never let you leave."
But for the sake of this video, this voice line from Orville Elephant has to be the most important.
He tried to release you. He tried to release us.
That voice line clearly shows that Cassidy not only remembers who Afton is, but she was fully aware of everything that Henry and Michael were trying to do. So spirits within Five Nights at Freddy's are powerful, which is actually something I bet William wishes he knew before he started his murder spree. But what happens when there isn't a full spirit, or perhaps it's just the positive and negative emotions from spirits? That, my amazing viewer, is where we dive into the world of Remnant and Agony. The first time the FNAF community was introduced to Remnant was in Five Nights at Freddy's Pizzeria Simulator within some secret blueprints. These blueprints revealed that the scooper from Sister Location didn't just scoop things out, but would also inject a Remnant. This is important because it explains how Michael survived being scooped. He now had this supernatural sauce in him which prevented him from dying. And if you look down at section D labeled Remnant Reservoir, we learn that in order to store or preserve Remnant, it needs to be put in a heated tank at a consistent temperature. However, none of this answers the question of what is Remnant itself. And to give you the best answer, I read all of the Fazbear Frights in the original trilogy to figure this out, and what I came up with is that Remnant, it's just a byproduct of the soul. You see, when a spirit possesses an animatronic, the whole spirit is controlling that animatronic, but if someone was to take that animatronic and heat it, you can now extract the substance called Remnant from the metal. Listen to Dr. Talbert from the Fazbear Frights describe it. In non-scientific terms, it's like the metal is haunted. It's more complicated than that, of course, but it's similar to the way water conducts electricity. Remnant is the missing of the tangible with the intangible, of memory with the present. The people and things that are lost, it makes them almost real again. Notice that line. It's like the metal is haunted. And that's the basis of Remnant. Remnant is the portion of the spirit that you extract. It's not as powerful as the spirit, but it has a ton of uses. An example is how William used Remnant on the Funtime animatronics. By injecting Remnant, he turned lifeless and boring animatronics into futuristic and intelligent creatures. And if you're curious how I know the Funtimes have Remnant, look at Henry's notes on Molten Freddy. Henry points out that it's the combination of Ballora, Funtime Foxy, and Funtime Freddy, and notes that it has the most amount of Remnant collectively in its structure. However, there's an important side effect to extracting Remnant, and it's the reason why the good ending of Five Nights at Freddy's 3 isn't the end of Five Nights at Freddy's. Take a look at this pie. It's whole and missing nothing. Now, let's say I take a slice out of the pie and set it aside. If you were to eat the larger portion of the pie, you technically don't eat the whole pie because a portion of it is left. Now imagine instead of a pie, it's a spirit. By extracting Remnant, you are taking a portion of the spirit and setting it aside. So when someone like a Michael comes along and tries to burn everything, it doesn't work. Since William used a Remnant from the original animatronics, Michael only destroyed the larger portion of the spirit and didn't destroy the smaller part in the Funtimes. And to make things more interesting, a spirit can be aware and feel when a part of it is extracted. In the fourth closet, while Afton is using Remnant from the original animatronics, evil robot Charlie, just trust me, it's better if I don't explain, remarks that the spirits are in pain, and Afton confirms her suspicions. They can feel it. But let's say you wanted to inject Remnant into a human. Well, this has actually happened twice within the FNAF universe. The first and most popular example is Michael Afton. If you finish Sister Location and get the main ending, Michael gets scooped and his insides replaced with Ennard. Not much longer, his body begins to fall apart and Ennard hits the eject button. But to everyone's surprise, Michael's story doesn't end there. Due to the Remnant injected into him, his spirit was able to possess his own corpse. I mean, look at the blueprints. The injector leaves a trace line of Remnant inside what it scoops. This may seem a little wild, but one could theorize that the Remnant injected in Michael could have been from the MCI children. Maybe Michael from then on had his own memories mixed with those of the children, and that's what makes him so passionate about making up for his father's mistakes. However, that's a theory for another day. The next person to be injected with Remnant is Carlton, a character from the Silver Eyes trilogy. When Carlton is injected with Remnant, it's by William Afton, who was testing the side effects on him because that's just what Afton does. The William Afton in the fourth closet is really just a mad scientist and is trying to recreate Henry's work. So what happens to Carlton? First and foremost, he passes out. But when he wakes up, he finds himself in a room with the spirits of their murdered children. Carlton is able to communicate with the children, but, you know, they're kids. They're children. They don't really care what Carlton says. So Carlton, just like Abby in the FNAF movie, uses a crayon and paper to tell the spirits what really happened. He reminds them that it was Afton who murdered them, and when the spirits find this out, they grab Afton and launch themselves into a furnace, ending it all. So now that we've thoroughly talked about Remnant, let's talk about its angry cousin, Agony. Now, Agony primarily appears in the Faz-Facts book series, and there haven't been any confirmed appearances of it in the games. But that's never stopped fans from speculating about possible appearances, like in Henry's speech.
This place will not be remembered, and the memory of everything that started this can finally begin to fade away, as the agony of every tragedy should.
And the blob from Security Breach. So, what is Agony? Agony is a powerful emotion that results from intense mental or physical suffering. And within the FNAF universe, Agony can latch onto items. Listen to Dr. Phineas Taggart, a man from the Faz-Facts who actually collected Agony-infested items, explain it. These items on Phineas's shelves weren't possessed by ghosts. The ones that were truly haunted were energized by Agony. So, Agony and Remnant aren't that similar at all. Remnant gets its power from the spirit, while Agony is just a powerful emotion. Now, I know what you're thinking. Sandwichly, seriously, a powerful emotion? That's really what this is? Trust me, I thought the exact same way until I met the main villain of the Faz-Facts, Eleanor. When it comes to Eleanor, nothing is really known about her origins. Eleanor is introduced in the story to be beautiful, where she tricks a girl into wearing a pendant that operates as an illusion disc and replaces this poor girl's limbs with actual garbage. She then appears later in the Stitch Rate That Blogs, trying to steal Remnant from Dr. Talbot so she can become immortal. In her final battle to steal the Remnant, Eleanor reveals what she truly is. Quote, "He could see her, but he could see into her too, and what he saw was a black, chaotic force that fed on human suffering." Eleanor is the ultimate boss of Agony, a fully sentient creature that has to inflict extreme pain on others in order to thrive. Now, I mentioned the blob from Security Breach earlier, and it's for a specific reason. Within the final Stitch Wraith epilogue, Eleanor seems to gain a new ability. Quote, "Eleanor opened her mouth impossibly wide. Gooey black tendrils shot from it, slithered across the floor, then twisted around Larson, binding him. The tendrils were sticky and smelled like copper. Blood, thought Larson. They're made of blood. Now, as a FNAF theorist, when I hear of gooey tendrils slithering around and binding an individual, I can't help but see some comparisons to the blob. Even Glamrock Freddy describes the blob as his friends who are angry and confused. Now, does this mini theory have holes? Sadly, yes. When Gregory first encounters the blob, he doesn't make any comment about the smell, which seems to be an important detail in the books. Also, even if I am right that the blob is made up of agony, there's no clear answer as to where the agony is from. As I mentioned, agony is a powerful human emotion, and with no humans besides Burntrap in this lower level, we have no concrete ties as to where it came from. So we'll have to keep our eyes open for any agony references in the future. Yay, you did it! You survived this Soul Science Sandwichly video. Like the video if you enjoyed it, and maybe click on this video where I put Michael Afton on trial.